The Venus Project. Team Speak Seminars. October 2nd, 2011.
Do you want to go into exotic sexual behaviors or fetishes, or how that's developed?
Well, in my experience in the islands, the South Pacific, years ago, the natives wore no clothing. And since they wore no clothing, it never developed any peeping toms because the children were swimming nude ever since they were very young. And so no one became a peeping tom. There was no basis for it. When a male talked to a female, they usually stare at their eyes when they talk to them. There were no girly magazines, no fetishes, because no parts of the body were accentuated by cover-up. So you see, what results from that is a totally different pattern of behavior regarding sex. They used to stroke the whole female, starting from the top of the head all the way down, but they had no particular areas of the anatomy that were emphasized. You see, fetishes come from people that review over and over again in their heads what they'd like to do sexually due to deprivation. And if they interview that in their heads over many years, they develop all kinds of exotic ideas.
Also, I think it's interesting on the islands, when people are raised that way, you can't sell pornography. There's no business of pornography. It doesn't exist.
It would have no meaning to them.
Right. Would you say that the transition is already underway?
Not really. Only when there's a total breakdown, where industry shuts down, banks are shut down, not bailed out. Then you have the beginnings of a need for a new social arrangement.
But the conditions are mounting for that, would you say?
Not necessarily. Conditions are mounting, yes. But the decision to move in any particular direction has to be done by a well-informed public, or at least an adequately informed public. Without information, there is no direction that can be taken that would make sense.
Do the technicians have power in a resource-based economy if there's shortage of some particular resource or item?
No, they do not have any such power. They merely function in the disciplined area that they're capable of functioning.
What would determine who would get what?
That's up to each individual. And the TV programs in the future, what you call TV, or the information access systems, will tell people what's available and when they will be available. But anyone can access whatever is available at the time, just like the public library.
What do you think, Jacque, of Nikola Tesla's attempt to build a Wardenclyffe Tower?
Well, I don't have the complete anatomy of his system, but I can say this, that if we learn to harness atmospheric and celestial electrical phenomena and deliver it down to the earth either by lightning means or projected equipment down toward a capacitor which is buried in the earth, and use the earth itself as a sending device, I think there's some basis for it.
I'm not sure what this person's asking, but what are the main features for a personal apartment to have in order to cover people's necessities? Go ahead.
Each person would require a different interior based on their interests, their areas of inquiry. In other words, the houses would be based, the interior function of the house as far as lighting and power turn-off system as you leave the area, that'll be commonplace. But each individual will have installations that will enhance their own performance.
They're asking, what are the main connections, such as water or food distribution, for ordering food from the apartment or the internet or electricity?
The same as any advanced system today, because you know what the early dumbwaiter was. A dumbwaiter is from the food distribution centers up to the home. If you wanted a snack, you could order what you wanted. And it would be delivered by either pneumatic tube or the most advanced system at the time.
You were talking about supercomputers being the base for such a society. Do you know of such systems which deal with massive amounts of information? Can you give examples? We're talking about using all of the best systems together as an integrated system, which they don't do today. If you look at any of these systems that calculate manufacturing and distribution for individual industries, they're huge, and even Google, the interpretations from Google and HP, I think a few years started to survey the Earth's resources, but you can see some up-to-date information about different supercomputers. In what areas do you think the present development of nanotechnology can improve the Venus Project?
Well, first of all, it has to be financed with equipment to do work in nanotechnology, submicroscopic particles, and the behavior of submicroscopic particles. But that would have to be financed first so that the labs are equipped with machines and devices to analyze those systems. They are not fully equipped yet. Therefore, there are limitations imposed upon every lab today by financial insufficiencies. In the future, we can make all things available to labs because it benefits the entire world rather than a corporation or private company.
The question was, how would nanotechnology improve the Venus Project?
The more information available, the more improvement. It would have to have equipment to devise information about that so that we are able to move forth. Without giving labs the equipment necessary to investigate such phenomena, you can't move forward.
This question, did you ever study the mating ritual of animals? Some are very complex. And how are they formed?
When an animal encounters another animal, if they're driven toward that animal for sexual purposes, that system will survive. If an animal has behavior superfluous to sexual attraction, the animal will not survive. But the colorful maneuvers of birds and moving their feathers in certain directions and the colors do not, I repeat, do not promote sexual activity. In some it does, and in those that it does, that type will flourish. In those that it doesn't, that type will not flourish. But there's no purpose to the feathers or the animation of the bird. There's no purpose. The bird has certain animations. It goes through them. If it works to support that form of life, it will continue. But there's no purpose to anything except that which man does. When man makes a rifle, he makes it to shoot animals or for the hunt. When he makes a bow and arrow, he uses it to destroy or create or subdue animal life so that he can eat it. But there's only purpose to what man does. The purpose of a microscope enhances his vision into the submicroscopic world which the human cannot sense. The telescope has a purpose because you can see the craters of the moon with its use. So it's an extension of human attributes.
This person is wondering if you studied branches of science such as mathematics, physics, chemistry, biology, and on what level? If yes, did you educate yourself, or what methods did you use?
I found that mathematicians, as a rule, do not come up with necessarily new ideas. They're good at mathematics and they use formulas. Yes, it's all useful, but I've never found any society that determined mathematically that the best way to live is a unified world community. Mathematics in itself does nothing, but experience over a wide range of different subject matter can enable a person to come up with new ideas. The limited exposure always presents limited ideas. So mathematics of itself is nothing unless it's applied in many different areas. The person that studies mathematics has to know something about chemistry, physics, botany in order to make it useful.
Where can I find the Venus Project flowcharts and see prioritizations?
You can find them, not yet.
What is the status of Jacque's movie? Well, we're still collecting funds for the scriptwriter. We've been interviewing and working with different scriptwriters. We haven't found one particularly that we want to work with yet. We are going through many of them. We have meetings actually this coming week with people in the field that have been delayed. So we are always working at it.
We work to also improve the script and to make it more meaningful to most people.
Yeah.
And we have to work on translations of the script into different languages so that film can be run all over the world. It's not an easy job, it just takes time. And we want to wait to the most appropriate time so that we can decide which way the film ought to go, what information is relevant, and as we find newer systems, we hope to apply it to the script.
But we're not waiting. We're not waiting for, I would say, for an appropriate time. We're working on it now. We're working on making contacts as well. Is there a suggestion box for state chapters? I'm not sure what the individual state chapters are doing. I can't always keep up with it. That's a good idea. So maybe Andrew has more information on that, or even some of the heads of the state chapters have more information on that if they want to come in on this one. Is there a suggestion box for state chapters, they're saying?
Yeah, I still got nothing for Andrew. Suggestion box, I could attempt to answer. I mean, we have emails as far as the core coordinators. Andrew has an email. The Venus Project has an email and a phone number. And soon as the global activism teams are, officially up and running, which they are not yet, we will have like regional meetings and language meetings. So as far as suggestion boxes go, there will be plenty, there already is plenty of opportunity for people to communicate.
This person is wondering, where can I submit artistic branding, music, logos, t-shirts, and things like that? Get in touch with the Venus Expressions team. That would be the best. Check that out on the website. In the On the Edge interview in the UK, Jacque mentioned that the Venus Project, there would not be such thing as love. He mentioned that it would not be love between heterosexuals. In contrast, it would be free as it happens to the society as the natives. Well, do you want to expand? I don't know, it just goes on. Do you want to expand on your idea of love, what that might be in the future?
Well, I've said that many times. Love is being in the future. The word will be replaced by extensionality. A person being useful or extensional to another person. A youngster can fall in love, if you want to use the old word, with his computer. He spends more time with his computer than with his dog or members of the family, because the computer is more extensional. The computer gives that youngster information that they want, not information that they're not interested in. They can turn it off, and they can move around and seek out what they want to know. So there are people, you can tell what a person wants by what they do, not so much by what they say. Sometimes if the wife calls in and says, honey, there's been an accident with the automobile, and he says, how bad is the car damaged, rather than, are you all right, honey? Is anything wrong? Are you okay? That shows you where the priorities are. Most people today want to know how badly damaged the car was, because the car to some people is more extensional than their partner.
I think this person was asking too about, would there be heterosexual, a marriage type of situation, or how that might be?
I don't think there'd be any marriages in the future. I think people will live together. If they get along, they'll stay together. If they don't get along, they'll leave. Just as you do. When you're 7 years old, you have certain friends. At 15 years old, you have different friends. At 20 years old, your standards change. So people constantly undergoing modification, will seek out different friendships.
He was also bringing up, do you think it might be as the natives were on the island, free as it happens?
Free as it happens. No marriage, no divorce.
When Fresco dies, is the Venus Project going to continue with its projects, such as doing the major motion picture? Yes. Try to build a first city? Yes. Do talks around the world? Yes, we're training, a lot of people are studying to be able to do lectures and present the Venus Project all around the world. Okay, and they're asking about the donations for the movies or the film. The donations are going to continue to be for, the donations that we're collecting now are for perhaps a trailer and a script writer, and well, depending on how far we can go with that funding, maybe a budget. But we're not collecting money to do the major film. That will take a lot of money. We want to true up the script so we can go to different people or different studios to get the amount of funds that would be needed for this film, because it would have a lot of computer images in it, so it will be a costly film. We're not trying to get donations to make the total amount for the film, but we are taking it to a certain point where we can go and get funding. In terms of self-sustainability, what kind of tip can you give us to catch the attention of people that don't know about the project? Is there any way to obtain resources in order to invest and recruit more activism?
The best way is by providing them with the information that you have that convince you to uphold the Venus Project. If you have been influenced a certain way, try to use that system on other people and get them to identify with the direction of the Venus Project. That's the best you can do.
What advice do you have for a student who has lost his interest for scholarly studies?
I would have to know more about the student, more about his values or her values, to give an answer, the appropriate answer to that problem.
What is the best method for people to learn things?
First, try to satisfy your own inquiries. Go to the library and look up books that would deal with your areas of interest. And if that doesn't help you, keep looking into that area, and you will develop more and more knowledge with each different discipline. To study or get books on introduction to science, introduction to the scientific method. With that type of information, that will give you better tools to look up additional information.
I guess this next question somebody was asking about, within a resource-based economy, would relocation of people be necessary to save on resources that would be used to counteract climate extremes?
Yes, relocation of people, so there's a balance throughout the world rather than a heavy concentration of millions of people in a given area.
People would be moving around too as well, doing whatever they like, with borders coming down eventually.
Yes.
Do you plan to produce more DVDs with Jacque's lectures?
A great many more.
If yes, when are you going to release them? We can't give you an exact date. Whenever we try to do this, we can never fulfill it exactly. But we already have, we must have about 60 to 80. And that's also the old lectures too, the classic lecture tours. We have more of them as well. But what we are working on right now, and we just finished the narration, is an introductory film to the Venus Project, so people, the activist groups and anybody can hand it out for free, an introduction to the Venus Project. We're trying to work on that. I can't give you a date when we'll have that finished, but we feel a real desperation to get it out as quickly as possible, as we do always working in this area. In truth, would you like to see or anticipate the arts eventually disappearing in the reshaped world culture that you propose?
No, we hope that the arts will become much more relevant to conditions on Earth rather than the personal interpretation of the artist. We would like the auditor to become more social, more aware of conditions before they submit their concepts. So it's based upon human need rather than just individual expression.
This person is wondering how they can reach people that feel, some people see the value in the Venus Project, but they don't believe it will ever happen. How do you reach people like that?
Everything is evolutionary. You can't reach people immediately. You have to try different techniques, and you have to talk to them about things they are interested in, or things they consider significant.
This person was asking if there's any new information on the Venus Project. I would say go to our homepage and look at what's new there. There's a whole section of what's new. Check out the website. Do you have any interest in individual products or open source products for single issues, such as certain countries like Greece needs help, or poverty in Africa for individual products?
Yes, we do. We have lots of products that people need, and that's immediate food, hermetically sealed, so it doesn't require refrigeration. Any immediate system for taking care of problems, earthquakes, disasters of different kinds, and what to do to help in those under those conditions.
Sorry, Roxanne, that previous question I just got a poke saying that it wasn't answered properly. They wanted to know, during now, as in before the resource-based economy, are you interested in singular products, such as dealing with singular issues, etc.? They're basically trying to work out whether or not you're interested in actually dealing with problems now during the transition, or whether you're just interested in the total sort of solution.
Jacque does have a lot of products, but he started doing products, and that really very hard route to go on due to lack of money and politics, political corruption. We would really need funding in this system. In order to develop a product, we need funding. If somebody came to us with a lot of funding who was just interested in products in a research and development lab, we would work, but it would have to be in the direction of course, the Venus Project and products coming out that would help introduce this direction as well. But so far we haven't had somebody come up and present that. We wouldn't do it on a small budget or no budget that we have. We just can't make it happen. At this time, whatever funds we have go toward making more information, getting more information out there about this direction. We feel that that's the most important thing to put our funds towards. And this person's asking, I would like to know if there's a book out there that talks about how to really raise children in this society.
You can't do that in this society. If you raise your children to be sane in this society, they won't get along with most other children.
When we shift from traditional family environments and reproduction becomes less emotionally desirable, would it be possible that sex becomes a planned activity and science and medicine eliminate the need for women to physically go through a natural 9-month pregnancy?
I can't deal with that. That would depend on the decisions made by people in the future.
Would people be educated to use both their left and right brain instead of just their left brain in a resource-based economy?
I don't think you have to worry about that. You have to worry about the information that is available. And if the information enhances the lives of everyone else, it'll be used appropriately.
I think people really restrict themselves by thinking they're left or right brains. Children can learn anything if done so in the right environment. Can you go into more detail about CORSAN, what it is?
CORSAN means Coordination Center. Before CORSAN can do anything, you have to provide CORSAN with information as to the Earth's resources, climatic conditions, soil conditions, so CORSAN has a reference file to draw from. Corsan makes no decisions on its own. Corsan means electronic connection to production, personnel, technical capabilities of all people, so Corsan can give you information. Corsan is merely a central collection of information, and the information is all collected electronically. For example, I don't know whether many of you know this, there's a rubber tube across the highway that leads up to a bridge. And as the cars drive over the rubber tube, it counts the cars. In the future, there'll be a microchip in the cars that transfers information, not only how many cars go over the tube, but how many passengers carrying, what the weight of the car is, all kinds of information. The more information collected at the junction, the more information can be drawn by Corsan, the coordination center. The coordination center does not make decisions, it arrives at them. And the decisions that it comes up with are based upon physical reference only. What Corsan will also do, it'll have a collection of the amount of sick people in the nation. How many conditions of cancer, what type of cancer, heart disease, malnutrition, cystic fibrosis. The more information Corsan has, the better it can tell labs what to get, what type of equipment to get to treat the physical disorders. How does Corsan know that? It doesn't know anything. It has stored information on everything known at the time. All that Corsan does is recommend a direction to be taken, and it's automatically updated by new input devices.
What disciplines do you suggest college students study in order to be relevant in the future?
Robotics, agronomy, hydroponics, automation, and any physical branch of the physical sciences.
How do you feel about the Occupy Wall Street protest?
Fine, as long as you educate people, but just protesting, marching up and back without imparting information, I say would not do very much. Not only do you appear there, you must inform onlookers as to why you're doing that and what the insufficiencies are of the stock market.
Yeah, it might be a good opportunity for the Venus Project, people who are interested in the Venus Project, to go and talk to the people there, because they don't seem to have a direction. They're talking about what they don't like and asking for more rights within this system, which is almost impossible to do and to get. The system is not just or equitable. And you could educate them in regards to a new system. That's what they need to hear, and understand why this system won't work for them. They won't reach their demands within the system. The Florida branch of Occupy Wall Street got in touch with us the other day and said that they are most aligned with what the Venus Project is doing. So we're going to have hopefully, we invited them over here to introduce them to this direction, the people who are the head of that group. Do you feel that the American political system can be salvaged if more scientists and engineers engage in the public sphere? No, Jacque does not feel you can save the American political system, the free enterprise system, even if you had scientists in control. Well, they're not in control. Global financial crisis seems to be a good opportunity for the Venus Project's expansion. Is that correct?
Yes.
And do you believe Greece can cause a financial meltdown?
Possibly.
Do you feel that nations must achieve first world status before a clean transition can occur?
No, I do not feel that's possible, necessary.
I don't think it will come through politics. This person saying, Roxanne, how do you feel about the current rate of development with the Venus Project? Where do you see the direction heading in the near future? We are really pleased with what everybody is doing to work with the Venus Project, and The progress of the project really depends on what a lot of people do and how much you can get to other people in talking about this and introducing them to this direction. We are trying to reach out. The media group and the PR group are doing a fantastic job in trying to reach other people, making e-brochures and making media kits to send out. We've already gotten a reply from CNN. They want to see a media kit. So we're working on that. We're doing a lot that we couldn't do alone here. So it's been really helpful. Any progress is fantastic. What place would regular labor workers in areas such as custom craftsmanship, like designer clothing, have in the Venus Project?
I've answered that many times in the past. I would just say that clothing will be designed by physiologists, anatomists, rather than artists. Clothing has to be designed to be self-repairing, comfortable, without any pressure points, and yielding to movement, permitting you to twist and turn without pulling. Fabrics will have to be redesigned, and clothing will have to be redesigned, not by artists, but by people that understand human anatomy and structure. Today, clothing has no meaning at all, just sales.
This person doesn't understand how there would be no laws in a resource-based economy.
If people have access to food, clothing, shelter, medical care, there's no basis for them to commit a crime if they can access anything just by going to the access center or requesting it. Don't you see? Crime is based upon need, making money. People sell drugs to make money. But if everybody is cared for, they don't sell drugs, and if there's no money, you can't sell drugs, even if you wanted to. There'd be no such thing as gambling, prostitution, or selling out, or paying off a senator or a governor. There are no senators. There are no governors, so you can't pay them off. If you take away the basis or the conditions that generate aberrant behavior, you don't have aberrant behavior.
Do you think that a resource-based economy can work in environments such as lunar colony on Mars?
I'd rather not deal with that. My problems are the Earth and what's happening on Earth. I'm against going out into space unless we learn to live together on Earth. And then, when all the nations join together to take care of the Earth and one another, then I'd be interested in extraterrestrial experiments. I'm not interested in reworking Mars so that we can live out there. If we don't know how to live together on Earth, how the hell are we going to live together on Mars?
How are emotions like hate and anger seen in the Venus Project?
I don't see the basis for it unless somebody threatens you. If it's an economic system of differential advantage, those problems will exist. If it's an economic system that deals with improving human relations, there's no basis for hatred.
How will language and literature transform in the transition and post-transition stage?
During the transition, we will have a lot of problems with language, because language is subject to interpretation. Until we develop a global language that's not subject to interpretation.
And then this person is saying, please talk about novels. Will we still have novels?
If by novels you mean random stories that people tell, the answer is no. They will be educated to talk about human behavior and how to relate and how to improve relationships and how to avoid conflict and how to avoid depression. Everything that people need will be written about in the future. Novels give us no real information.
I know during the transition you talked about if people watch soap operas, if that's where they are, then you use soap operas and put information in it, so it's more useful to people.
Yes,
you teach them something through the soap operas.
That's one way of bridging the difference.
Could be true in novels in the early transition.
You don't need novels in doing. If people are studying the Venus Project, they have to study the effectors, the prime effectors that shape human behavior. Without that study, there is really no progress.
Will we adopt a single language and transition into a new one?
If you wish to have global communication, you must pick up the language that's relevant. In other words, if you go to a foreign country with a new concept like electronics, they have to study the new language, and they have to study electronics. You can go to Saudi Arabia today, and you see the women dressed in the early stages that they were using 100 years ago, but they do have cell phones. And the more cell phones they take on, the more students they would have to train in the operation and repair of cell phones. So you see, new technology will force a culture to begin to study that technology. You can't have automobiles in a primitive society without mechanics, without electrical engineers, without people that know how automobiles work. So any culture that's to move up from the primitive to the more advanced will have to study advanced techniques or a uniform language to communicate.
Is post-scarcity inevitable due to the emergent nature of technology and society?
No, technology can make more things available by getting better use out of existing technology and resources. By using our resources intelligently or wisely, we can get far better use of it, and we can enhance the lives of more people. The way we use technology today is completely wasteful. We duplicate many vacuum cleaners, tools. In the future, we will make the best equipment and make it available to everyone.
What do you say to people who think that your ideas, changes in human behavior, will come about due to the way we will live in a resource-based economy? What do you say to people who feel that that's just a theory?
Well, we know that people that move to Germany, if they don't learn to speak German, they can't relate to people. And if you move to France and you want to relate to people, you have to learn that language. If you learn the language of technology, your conclusions will be different than that of the average person. So we do feel that genuine information can help people grow and modify their behavior so it fits in more with the nature of the real world than a projected nature. We project a lot of meaning into things which have no basis whatsoever. When you learn the physical sciences, you learn how to say, what have we here? And the answer is, I don't know enough about it to make a decision. Where could I find out more about it? You go to a university and you study physics, chemistry, botany, whatever it is that you hope to improve. You cannot on your own develop a broad range of ideas. You do depend on other people that have had experience in the field and can transfer their experience and knowledge to you through books, DVDs, or whatever other means are available.
Is it just a theory that environment shapes behavior?
There's plenty of evidence to support that. If you were brought up in France, you'd speak French. If you were brought up in Germany, you'd speak German. Your environment impinges on you. Every word you use, you picked up. Either your mother gave you that, she said, look, honey, that's a light, this is a cup, that's a table, this is a lamp. Every word that you use and all the facial expressions are picked up from your culture. You have very few people today ordering a covered wagon. It's a Hollywood studio that's making a movie on the past. I just want to remind you that Roxanne does not control people. It merely makes suggestions from a wide range of collected information. And the information it collects is always relevant, has been tested and tried, and it tells you how many ships are available, how many freight trains are available, how many doctors there are, and the best and latest treatment for physical disorders. It gives you information only, and when it doesn't have information, it tells you that we have to do further studies on that in order to arrive at more appropriate decisions. It does not make decisions, it arrives at them.
Does Jacque believe in ethics? I think we went over this last week, but
Yeah.
do you want to deal with that again?
We don't need ethics in a society where people have access to the necessities of life. You don't need laws. All those come about as a result of scarcity. Whenever you make a law, thou shalt not kill, some jackass thinks that by making a law, you can control human behavior. Conditions that exist control human behavior, not the laws. When you say crime is not correct, you'll find that our prisons are overcrowded today. The laws do not stop crime. They merely make noise about crime. They say don't take anything that doesn't belong to you. Well, that doesn't do anything. Or if you go to church, it doesn't stop gossip. Stopping gossip means there are priorities that are much more interesting than gossip. Gossip serves no purpose except some cheap yellow journalism. There's no need for gossip in the future. There's no need to find out that somebody else is having an affair with another person and they're married. That does not concern society. That belongs in a psychiatric journal, not in the newspaper.
Also, you always give the story of after World War II, the most ethical people, they were saying that the wealthiest people that would go to church and uphold ethics, their ethics really held no weight. After the war, they were scavenging in trash cans for food and fighting over food in the streets because there wasn't any. So if you supply the needs of people in food, they won't be fighting.
If people are unemployed and you take away their compensation checks, unemployment checks, they will revert to whatever is necessary. They will break windows and remove food, if not for themselves, for their children. People will behave in relationship to the environment they live in, not the laws you make.
Or the ethics.
Ethics is just a wishful thinking. It has nothing to do with anything.
An extension to that question on ethics, they're saying, should we not clone people and animals in the future? How do we decide if we clone people or animals?
That will be decided in the future when more information is available. I can't answer that.
I read your brother was a Hollywood actor who was blacklisted in 1950s. What exactly happened?
I was not there. I really don't know about that.
He was a bit actor, yeah. Would foodborne illnesses be able to be completely eradicated?
I'm sure they can if they're assigned that task.
Does anybody have a question they'd like to ask now?
Yes, would you consider it correct if we have a predetermined structure of behavior?
Do you consider it correct that we have a predetermined structure of behavior? Is that what you're asking? Go ahead, my hand.
Behavior has nothing to do with what I think. Behavior has to do with the conditions that exist. That generates behavior. If you have an appropriate education, meaning meaningful education that correlates with the nature of man and the environment, it'll work. If you have invented behavior that has nothing to do with the culture, it will not work. Every law that you have will be violated if it doesn't conform to the needs of people. You don't need to make laws if people have access to the necessities of life. It's only when they don't that man invents laws. Therefore, the legal profession would not exist in the future. And all banking, investment bankers, brokers, all the professions, advertising will not exist in the future. There's no need for it.
Many libertarians and our capitalists say that money is not the problem, it's what you do with it. What is your response to that?
We disagree. Read our books, look at our website, go to work, try to find out. Get hold of a book called The Money Masters. Read about it. You have to do some work to become educated. You're not going to get all the answers from the Venus Project. You have to work at it too.
What we have today is what we do with the money. This is the evolution of the free enterprise system. It's a real free-for-all. Those who have the money are in charge of how the laws are determined, who makes the laws, who benefits from them. I don't see any indication of money being used wisely or for the benefit of people.
A lot of people ask questions that they should have asked when they were 9 years old. Get whatever information you want. In other words, a lot of questions cannot be answered. It's like a person walking over and saying, what are valves for on an automobile?
What are what?
What are valves for?
Oh.
After you can get that information.
Any books or magazines in behavioral sciences that you would recommend?
Yeah, we have a pretty comprehensive book list, many books on behavioral sciences there. Take a look at it. It's up on our website under free downloads.
Thank you.
I'd also suggest anything by B.F. Skinner, especially a book called On Behavioralism.
I would recommend that you look at our website, pick up whatever information, get hold of the books we recommend that you read before you formulate your questions.
We regularly update our YouTube channels, and there's lots and lots of information on there. We put up sections of the new videos that we're making as well, and they're on all different topics, so you can get up to speed on a lot of things on the YouTube channel. I'd say study that. There's a wealth of information there.
Okay, I'm going to close this one down for this week. Thanks everyone for coming again. We'll sort out a seminar with Jacque next week to talk about some subjects in a bit more depth.
Thanks, everyone.